this is Rick Kasalj from exercisesforinjuries.com. I wanted to welcome you to the 5 essential back pain exercises. Now, these are the 5 exercises that I end up giving my clients that want to strengthen their back and have a stronger back. These exercises are simple. Anyone can end up doing them, and I give you a whole bunch of progressions. So low level, easy, to harder and more challenging. So if you end up having back pain and you want to strengthen your back and you're looking for exercises that you can do that are safe, that you can progressively make harder, that are going to make your back stronger and not irritate your back, then you've come to the right place. So enjoy the video. I'm going to go through the 5 exercises, pick the level that you can do, and progress on to the more challenging exercises. But that's it. Enjoy the exercises, and we'll see you at the first exercise. Okay, starting off with the first exercise. The first exercise ends up being the bird dog. And with the bird dog, I end up doing, there's 5 different progressions that you can end up doing the exercise. So go with the exercise level that you can end up doing. I would start off with the easiest and progress through to the one that you can end up doing. So starting off with level 1, so bird dog with arms. So we'll get RC into the starting position. So hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips, separating the knees so they're about hip width apart. Yes, good. Tightening through the abdominal area like you're bracing for a punch. Curve in the spine stays the same, it's not changing. And then I'm getting Orsi, you're looking down through your hands, good. And now Orsi's gonna reach forward with one of the arms, good. Hands below shoulder height, holding for a second, and then coming back. And then she would end up alternating. Good, with the arm, and then coming back. That ends up being level 1. Then she would end up progressing to legs. So the same starting position, tighten the abdominal area, bring that leg back, no change in the curve. Reaching, the big thing is like trying to reach with that leg back, really contracting the glute, tightening the abdominal area, coming to a hold, and then coming back to the start. You can see things aren't changing up here, head's in good alignment, eyes are looking straight ahead. Then the third level ends up being alternating arms and legs. So RC's in the starting position, reaching with the arms, hands are below shoulder height, reaching with the leg back, coming to hold, coming back to the start, and then alternating sides. Good, no rotation through here, curve stays the same, abs are tight, and then coming back to the start, and just alternating back and forth. Good, and with these 3 progressions that I've talked about, you're just going through like 5 repetitions on each side, so 1 set of 10. Now the next progression ends up being adding a sweep. So you're in the starting position, you're tightening that abdominal area, now you're gonna reach with the arm, you're gonna reach with the leg, you're gonna hold for a second, you're gonna bring the arms to the middle, good, and then you're gonna sweep them back out. Holding for a second and then sweeping back in and back out. Good. Pelvis stays the same, shoulder girdle stays the same, curvature in the back stays the same, abs are tight, and I'm going through 5 repetitions of that sweep, and then I would end up alternating onto the other side. And then I'll get Orsi to go through 5 reps on that other side. And with his bird dog, it ends up being in a low stress position in the back. And what we're working on is the muscles that end up stabilizing that shoulder girdle, the muscles that end up stabilizing that pelvis, and we're working on those extensors in the back. So this is a low load exercise on the spine, but we're strengthening those pelvic girdle, shoulder girdle, and those extensors, which are really important when it comes to overcoming back pain. Now the last progression I'll get Orsi to go through is boxes. So I'd go arms and legs with boxes. So she's reaching, and then she's going to draw little boxes with her arms and her legs. I would start off with small boxes, and then coming back. So you do a little box and then you come back to the start. Good. And then you alternate sides. Good. Going with the little box. Good. And then back to the start, other side. So Orsi, with this one, we'll just go with the arms. So if you're having a challenge with this, just start with the arms. And we're just starting off with the little boxes. Out to the side, down, in, back to the top, and then to the start. And then I'll get you to go with the legs. Yep, good. Out to the side, down, in, up, back to the start. Good. So you can start off with just doing the arms, just doing the legs, and then you can end up bringing them together. Perfect. Thanks, Orsi. So there you go. Definitely do the bird dog exercise. It's low load in the spine. We're activating those core muscles, those muscles in the pelvic girdle, the shoulder blade area, and those extensors in the back, which are all important when it comes to overcoming back pain and having a strong back. Now moving on to the second exercise, front to side plank. So we're starting off with the wall, and just like the other one, the bird dog one, it just ends up being progressive and pick the level that you can end up doing. But I end up starting people with the wall. So you end up doing a wall front plank. So we'll get Orsi to go about, we'll go about an arm width away from the wall. So you can move closer, 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 yeah. So about an arm width away from the wall, and then you're gonna stack the arms and go on your forearms. Yes, there you go. And you're gonna hold that position for 5 seconds. And I'm just gonna get you to 5 repetitions. So you come back up to the start, take a break for a second or two, and then go into it again. So things that I'm looking for, I want good alignment with the head, shoulders, hips, and the rest of the body, so the legs. I want to make sure, and then come back to the starting position. You're tightening up your abdominal area, so you're bracing your abdominals like you're bracing for a punch, and then going into it. And then you're trying to make sure that the forearms are below shoulder height. You don't want them to be too high. So what we're working here is we're really ending up working on the core, especially in that anterior direction, sagittal plane, or forward direction. So now what we're going to do is we're going to progress from the wall front plank to the wall side plank. So now you're facing the wall sideways. Yeah, and that's the cue there. So you're going about an arm width away from the wall, you bend through the elbow, you come into that side plank. Yes, and I want that elbow to be about here. So I want it to be below shoulder height because I don't want to irritate that shoulder. And then I've got everything in good alignment. Head's in good alignment with the rest of the spine. I'm tightened through the abdominal area. I'm straight from this side. I'm straight from here. I'm holding the position for 5 seconds, coming out of it, 1 or 2 second break, and then going back into it. Big parts are tightening through here like you're bracing for a punch, ending up having good alignment. And now what we're working on is that core stability when it comes to side, that frontal plane. Good, and coming back up. The third progression ends up being combining the two, going from a front plank into a side plank. So now Orsi is going to kind of go in that same starting position, shoulder width or arm length away from the wall, stacking the forearms. Yes. And now she's going to get good alignment, so tighten through the abdominal area, good and straight. And then now she's going to rotate onto her side. Yes, good. Second or two, back to the front. 1, 2, other side. Good. 1, 2, and then back. And other side. Good. And if it's if you've have too much stress on your shoulders, what you can end up doing is moving a little bit closer to the wall and moving your arms a little bit further down so they're below shoulder height. And you can see as Orsi is going through this, you can see her movement ends up happening in her toes. She's really working hard at keeping that shoulders and the pelvis in alignment. They're rotating together and not separately. Having them rotate separately puts a lot of stress and strain on that back. But with this, it's training the back to stay strong, the core on, and for the shoulders and the pelvis to rotate together. And now we'll end up moving from the wall and we'll go down to the floor and go through the progressions when it comes to the floor. So we've gone from the wall, and then now we're going to progress onto the floor. So Orsi is going to go through that front plank on the floor, which is more challenging than the wall. Good. So good. Tightening through the abdominal area, straight line through here. Eyes are looking straight ahead, holding that position for about 5 seconds, and then she can end up taking a break or resting. Good. And then going back into it. 5 seconds, 5 repetitions. Tighten the abdominals, good alignments, really working on that anterior core, which tends to be strong in people, but a lot of times people end up lacking the endurance and the strength side of things. Now we'll get Orsi to progress onto the side plank. So good. So going to the side plank, arms to the side. So she ends up having good alignment through here and good alignment through here, tightening through that abdominal area, holding for about 5 seconds, and then she can end up taking a break. Good. And then again, tightening through here, hopping up, good alignment through here, good alignment through here, and then looking at that elbow being underneath that shoulder. So we don't want it too high up because it'll end up irritating the shoulder. And the key thing is really tightening that abdominal area, getting good alignment, and if this bothers your shoulder, you can take the hand and bring it onto your shoulder and pull down on your shoulder like you're cupping it down. Like it's almost like your hand is acting like the rotator cuff. Good. Good. And back down. Good. So 5 repetitions, 5 times, and doing a set on one side, and then you do another set on the other side. Now we're going to go through the last progression, which ends up being floor front to side plank. So Orsi ends up getting into that front plank, tightening through that abdominal area, getting into good alignment, and then she's going to pick a side that she wants to end up going to. Good. Good alignment again in that head and through the side, tight through here. Now with this, working on that frontal plane, side to side stability, going back to the front. Yeah, to the side, 1, 2, going back to the front, 1, 2, and going back to the side. So excellent through the side, and then when she goes to the front, she's good. Good alignment, which is good. A way that some people cheat or still get you to go back to the front. Sometimes a lot of people will bring their seat up to cheat and get more help from their hip flexors, but you want to keep those hips down in line with the rest of your body. Awesome, thank you, Orsi. Okay, so there you go. That ends up being the second exercise, front to side plank, and what we're really working on is the core stability in that anterior direction and that core stability when it comes to the side direction. And with the transition from the front to the side, we're working on that last plane, that transverse plane, which a lot of people don't end up focusing in on. So this ends up being a good low load exercise on the spine, but really challenges that core area, which is what we want, good strong core, to decrease the pain in our back and strengthen our back in order to kind of prevent back pain. Okay, now we're going to move into the third exercise, which ends up being the curl up. So you end up lying down on the mat, and what you're going to do is, you start out with both knees bent, and then you're going to straighten out one of the knees, and what that's going to do is lock the pelvis, so there's less movement in that pelvis. We're going to take one arm and put it underneath your low back, so you can gauge to see that there's no change happening in that lower back. Because what we want to do is we want to maintain that bridge. We want to maintain that arch in that back. When we flatten out that bridge or when we flatten out that back, that ends up being bad. It ends up putting a lot of strain on that low back and increases the stress and strain on the back, which we don't want to do. And then the other hand is in behind the head, so it ends up cupping the head. And doing this curl up, is a safe way of doing ab exercises. So what it ends up doing is it ends up putting lots of it ends up really challenging rectus abdominis or the six-pack muscle, but it ends up putting the least amount of stress in the back. When it comes to a traditional sit-up or curl up, it ends up putting a lot of stress in that low back, flattening out the back, and putting a lot of stress and strain on the back. While this one puts less stress on the back and really challenges that rectus abdominis or six-pack muscle. So I'm going to get Orsi to kind of start off with level 1, which is about 50% of your body weight. So she's going to lift from that mid-back area as opposed to the head, good, and then coming back. So smooth, controlled movement. She's feeling it all through that rectus abdominis or six-pack muscle. She's not bracing the abdominal area, she's relaxed, and she's curling up. 5 repetitions, up to 10 repetitions. The next progression is she ends up going a little bit further, lifting from the thoracic, good, coming back down, and again, so things that she's looking for, she's cupping her hand with her head. What she's looking at is she's not flattening out that bridge or arching her low back, and one leg straight is locking down her pelvis. And then the third level is she's holding that position. She's going to come up, she's going to hold, and back. So you can do like a 2-second hold or even progress up to a 5-second hold. But we don't want the muscles in the neck to do all the work or get strained. We want it to be all rectus abdominis. So there you go. That ends up being the curl up exercise where we're kind of safely doing like a six-pack exercise, but we're putting low load in the spine. And what we're doing is strengthening that six-pack, working on the activation of that six-pack, and also working on the strength of that six-pack. Okay, now we're moving into number 4, the hip hinging. So with backs, they quite like standing or compression. It's that transition from like standing or compression into more of a forward bend that puts a lot of stress on the back. So what we end up needing to do is retraining properly. So it's, instead of it being a low back movement, it ends up being a hip movement. And then also we need to work on that endurance and strength and activation of those muscles in the core and in the hips to be strong in different positions. So with the hip hinging, what level 1 ends up being is I end up moving on the floor and end up doing a kneeling tall to sitting on heels exercise. So Orsi will get you to, yep, so kneeling. So you're kneeling tall. So we're starting off kneeling tall. And then what I'm going to get her to do is sit back, and then she's kind of going into that hip hinging position. Coming back, and I'm going to get you to lean forward a little bit. Yes, good. And then coming back up, and then again, good. So now I'm getting her to kind of work on that vertical, and then now she's coming forward and she's tightening that abdominal area. She's got nice good alignment in her head, shoulders, and hips. So that ends up being the first exercise that you would end up doing to kind of learn that hip hinging. Then you'd end up progressing to kind of go from a standing to hip hinging. So we'll stand up, Orsi, good. And then, so she's in a standing position, and then she's kind of got one hand in front, one hand behind, reaching back with the seat, breaking through the hips, coming forward, good. Good, and keeping good alignment with the shoulders and hips and head. Good, she's tightened through that abdominal area. Good, and then I'll get you to face that, yes, we'll go from the side, good. Upright, good, coming down. So now we're starting to work on that hip hinging, which ends up being important, really retraining for that movement to happen in that hip area as opposed to that low back area. So many people make that mistake. Good, it ends up being a hip exercise and a hip movement. And then the third one ends up being a box squat or a chair squat. So we can have a chair or a box, and what I'm getting Orsi to do is kind of in front of the chair and then reaching back for the chair and going into sitting and then into upright, good. Coming back and then upright and then good. Reaching for it, sitting up, going forward and coming back up. So now we're kind of working on that hip hinging pattern, reaching back, bringing that trunk forward, no change in the curve in the back, all of the movement happening in the hip, tighten that core area, that abdominal area, and then working from going from a sitting upright position back into a standing position. So there you go. That ends up being number 4, really understanding that movement, that hip movement, hip flexion extension movement, as opposed to that lumbar flexion extension movement. Very important. Okay, so we're going to go through the 5th and last one. So this one ends up being stir the pot. And there ends up being 3 progressions, and I end up starting people with the wall, and then I progress them from the wall floor, and then we end up going to the floor. So what you end up needing is a stability ball. I'm going to end up doing kind of like what we did, the front plank against the wall. And then Orsi's going to do little circles with the stability ball. And you would end up doing a couple clockwise and a couple counterclockwise. Good, good. And then, step to the starting position. And then I'll get you to go through it again. I'll highlight a couple more things. So I'm really tightening through that abdominal area. Tightening through that abdominal area, having good alignment in the head, shoulders, and the legs. Looking at ideally having those elbows just below shoulder height to decrease the stress on the shoulder. I don't want any arching in the back. And starting with little circles and going to bigger circles, and going clockwise and counterclockwise with the circles. When that ends up being easy, I end up moving to what I end up calling stir the pot wedged. So it ends up being wedged between the wall and the floor. And in that same position, legs are about hip width apart, tight through the abdominal area, in nice good alignment, head, shoulders, hips, and legs, and rotating. Good. Good. And back to the start. Yeah, it ends up being a noisy exercise, and that's completely fine. But it ends up being a nice transition from the wall to the floor, because the floor can be challenging for some people. So now we end up, the 3rd progression ends up doing the stir the pot on the floor. So coming up onto the ball, really tightening that abdominal area, good. Nice good alignment through here, nice good alignment through here. Little circles clockwise, little circles counterclockwise, and then making those circles bigger and bigger. And what I'm doing is like 5 repetitions each way, and that would end up being it. I can end up progressing to 10 repetitions. So with this stir the pot exercise, it's really good in the way that it's once again working that core, working on that stability in that anterior direction of the core, and then adding that rotation adds kind of a reactionary effect in that core area, which is good. Because like a regular plank, there is no reaction happening, but starting to add that rotation adds that reactionary component to the core, which ends up being good. So that forward plank on the ball is a good safe position for the back, low load on the back, and then we end up adding that reactionary, which ends up challenging the core more, which is what we end up wanting. So there you go. That ends up being the 5 essential back pain exercises. Please give those a go and let me know. Give me your feedback on how those exercises are and how they end up helping you strengthen your back. Now, if you're looking for more information when it comes to back pain and what to do about your back pain and overcome your back pain and get back to pain-free workouts, then I would end up suggesting you end up taking a look at the program myself and Mike Westerdahl put together called Fix My Back Pain. You can visit fixmybackpain.com for more details on that program. But also, if you want to come visit me, you can visit me at exercisesforinjuries.com. If you enter your injury or pain in the search box, there's a good chance that I end up having an article or interview or video on your pain or injury. Secondly, If you're on YouTube, type in Rick Kaselge or exercisesforinjuries.com and you'll come across my channel, and you can subscribe to my channel. And when you do, what'll end up happening is every couple days you'll end up getting a video on injury or pain, or what you can do to overcome injury and pain. And thirdly, make sure you head down below, like, and leave me a comment or question. Let me know if you have a question about any of the exercises that I went through, if you need clarification on the exercise, and let me know the benefits that you've gotten from the exercise and doing the exercises. So this is Rick Kaselge from exercisesforinjuries.com and fixmybackpain.com saying take care and bye-bye.